We have on my man, Mr. Derek Wilson. He is talking all about consumable products today and how you can happy hustle reoccurring subscription product. We're going to be diving into this episode of the Happy Hustle Podcast.
Do you want blissful balance in your personal and professional life? Great. What's up, guys? My name is Kerry Jack, and I want to help you happy hustle a life you love, one full of passion, purpose, and positive impact. I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur, a professional model / actor, a digital marketing specialist, a podcast host, author, a biohacker, an eco-warrior, a martial artist, a hippie cowboy, and a humanitarian. My goal is to educate, inspire, and entertain you to live a life of passion, purpose, and positive impact. It is time to happy hustle your dream reality. Yee-yee! All right, my brother, Mr. Derek Wilson, welcome back to the Happy Hustle Podcast. You, my friend, were one of our first episodes on the show. We were just riffing before we recorded, I think almost 5 years ago. And here you are again, back on the show. And I'm super stoked to rock the mic with you, man.
Dude, I am always grateful for you, for our friendship, and so excited to be back.
Yeah, man. I mean, you are a happy hustler. That's for damn sure. You're also an outdoorsman, a father of 4. You're a husband, you're an entrepreneur, and a master salesman. You personally have sold over $10 million over the phone, and you were one of the original employees of the software company ClickFunnels. And you're also the host of the Primal Kings podcast and the founder, I guess you would say founder of Crosso Ranch, or would you say, I mean, it's been passed down for 6 generations, right? Since 1890. So I guess you're the owner and operator now currently, but I don't know if founder is the word, because we got to give the ancestors the the glory on that one. But you have an amazing story, man. You also have some really cool, amazing grit sticks that are just launching, which I'm very excited to talk about this journey into, you know, the beef stick world, which is 100% American born and raised beef that is flavor packed and ready to fuel you through your next gritty endeavor. And I'm really excited to hear just kind of this journey of, you know, bringing this to market and how you've happy hustled throughout it. So anyway, man, I'm excited. That's all I got. Let's ask you this question, because I asked you last time. I'm curious where you go. What is something interesting about Derek that maybe I don't even know that we can share with the heavy hustlers to kick things off?
Oh man, something interesting about me. I mean, in this day and age, maybe it's interesting that I actually met my wife at 19, and we have now been together for 23 years, married for like 17, almost 18 years. So I think that, you know, in the day and age where a lot of us wait a little longer in life, which I have no judgment on, we actually have been together forever. Some days it seems like really forever. No, just kidding, honey. Just kidding if you're listening.
Yeah, right. Well, I met your wife, and she's a saint and a beauty at that. And, you know, the truth is 23 years, like, that's a feat, man. So kudos to you both, because marriage is like the ultimate partnership, obviously. And especially as entrepreneurs, like, having a marriage that long is rare. So now I got to go deeper here. Give us, you know, some wisdom. What is your number one marriage tip / tactic to stay together that long?
Yeah, I think, so you and I, hopefully I'm not spilling the beans too much, but I remember we were in a side-by-side, maybe having a couple of adult pops, headed up to our cabin. Yeah. And I remember us talking about this, and I still feel like the same thing is true, which is the best advice I have when it comes to marriage is never say something today that will still hurt tomorrow. I've said that to anybody who's asked me, like, how do you guys stay married for so long? Or how have you been together for so long? And I truly do think that that is like one of the center points of our marriage, is that everybody's going to fight. Everybody's going to see things differently. But I think so often what ends up happening is in those moments when you are fighting, when you are pissed, it's really easy to be like, oh yeah, well, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, like, you wake up the next morning and you're all happy. And she's like, I can't believe you said that to me yesterday. And
Mhm.
then the fight continues, right? Instead of just squashing it. So that is something I've always tried to stick to. And I feel like it's served us pretty well because my wife has done the same thing.
Yeah, that really is a great tip. And I do remember that when we were elk hunting on your ranch, just like I heard that and I was like, that's a really great tip. And, I recently heard a joke that says, why are most archaeologists women? And it's because they're great at digging up the past.
Yeah.
And truly, they will not forget that thing you say.
Yes, exactly. Now, if you want my grandpa's spin on it, his key to marriage was to always make sure they love you a little more than you love them.
Mm, touche.
I mean, that'll probably piss some people off, but
Yeah.
that's old school thinking, right? We don't think that way anymore.
No, the truth is, like, Steph and I talk about grit. Like, we've been together almost 10 years now, and we've had plenty of walk away moments. We just haven't walked away,
Yep.
and you have grit in your relationship, just like you got grit sticks, which is a perfect segue to what we're talking about today. Because, yeah, you've had a great, successful career as an entrepreneur, online and selling amazing things. And I know your partners, in a company right now as well as running Crosso Meats. But the main thing that I'm super pumped about is these grit sticks because they are, yeah, just awesome. Who doesn't love a great beef stick? Talk to us
Yeah.
a little bit about this origin story and what made this transition into grit sticks.
Yeah, so it's been a journey. And what's wild about, I feel like, my past and so many other people that I've talked to over the years is, it's like I don't feel like I was born on third base, grew up pretty poor.
Mm.
And I mean, I'm not a rocket scientist when it comes to intellect. I mean, I like to think I have some intelligence, but I mean, I'm not a rocket scientist either,
Yeah.
and so it's like, what is it that's allowed me to have any of the success that I've had? What is it that allows so many people to have success? And I feel like it always comes back to one thing, and it's just grit, right? Because
Right.
grit really sums up so much of it: the resilience, the kind of that toughness. And like when I think back about like my dad's life, and for those who maybe don't know the backstory, our ranch was homesteaded originally in 1890 here in central Idaho.
Hmm.
And I feel like every generation has just had to kind of fight and claw and show that grittiness to just hold on to the ranch, right? Like I know everybody now watches Yellowstone and they see the fancy trucks and the helicopters, but
Right.
that's not like real ranch for the
Right.
most
Right.
part, real ranch life, right? And so it kind of came down to when we were talking about naming these, because we've been shipping meat out across the country for the past almost 5 years now. But beef sticks has always been a passion, but we didn't want to just be another beef stick. And we're like, what is something that we could call these to call out what I like to call like the useful class, right? Like people who actually do stuff. Now,
Hmm.
again, I don't want to like talk down or demean people who like trade numbers on a screen and make a bunch of money. Like, great, that's awesome for them.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like who's representing the ranchers, who's representing the electricians, the people that are unclogging drains, like the stuff that has to happen for a society to function, but yet that's kind of looked down on in our society, right? For
Hmm.
whatever reason. And so it's like, how do we bring awareness? Because I will tell you, some of the best, kindest, hardest working people, just give you the shirt off their back type of people, are people that you'll never hear of. They're not social media influencers. They don't have big followings outside of their little community where they're probably a rock star in that little tight knit community. No one else really knows them.
Right.
And it's like, how do we shed light on the people who are just out there busting their ass?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, could we call them this? Could we call them that? Could we call them
Mhm.
this? And finally, it was like, how do we encapsulate like, toughness and resilience and like all this crazy stuff that we feel like we've had to go through in our story? And it's like, I wish we could just come up with a name that like meant gritty, or grit. And we're like, well, why don't we just call it a grit stick? And so we went and trademarked it and did all of that. And yeah, kind of the rest is history now.
Yeah. Dang. I love it. And the truth is, like, when you understand the supply chain, which I love on your website, crossomeats.com, you can actually see the supply chain. Like you, as the consumer, are getting it direct from the source. But talk to us a little bit about like the difference in supply chain from the more, commercial ag business and big beef, and the difference between Crosso.
So it's interesting, and not to get too far into the weeds, because honestly, I'm not sure how much most people really care, but just to kind of give everybody the overview of it, which is just beef sticks, for example. Like, let's just take that, the stuff that you see on most of your grocery store shelves or, convenience stores, whatever. Almost all of that beef is processed in the same plant. And in order to get into those plants, they really don't like to bring outside beef into there, because then they have to clean everything. And, it's a whole different process. So it took us almost 2 years to actually get our grit sticks done, because it was so hard to find a processor who would actually do them.
Mm.
And so a lot of times what happens is they'll bring in like imported beef. A lot of it comes from New Zealand, Australia, Brazil, like Central America, South America. And a lot of this beef is imported. And then you basically, as the, beef stick company, you go in there and you will say, hey, I want to start a beef stick company. And they're like, great, we have all this beef. Just tell us, what you want, slap your label on it. It'll be the same as the guy sitting right next to you on the grocery store shelf, but it'll have a different label, and, maybe you can market it, pitch it better. And people are like, okay, cool, let's do that. And the amount of times that we were told when we would reach out to these different companies of, yeah, we can do it, we just can't use your beef. And we're like, okay, well, one of the big kind of things we want to make sure of is that this is American beef. In fact, like on our grit stick, you can make claims, right? Like 14 grams of protein, or, no sugar, or all of these things, no MSG. You can make those claims, but you have to back them up. So one of the claims that we said when we wanted to do the labels is 100% American beef.
Mm.
The guy I was on the phone with telling this to, he's like, that's one I don't think you want to do. Like, he had no problem being like no MSG or no nitrates. Like, those are all easy, right? But he's like,
Yeah.
I don't know about the 100% American beef. And I'm like, well, why is that? That's what we're using. He's like, well, if you really hit a home run with this, you're going to end up wanting to use imported beef because it's so much cheaper. And I was just like, actually, no, I would rather sell less. And because, not to go like too far off on the tangent, but like, I grew up watching my dad literally kill himself to be a rancher and to raise the best beef possible.
Mm.
And I grew up, and I still to this day know so many great people who literally killed themselves trying to raise great beef. It is a thankless, horrible, hard, yet awesome life.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was like, there's no way in hell I'm using imported beef. I don't care if this is $1 billion business. Like, I would rather it be a $500 million business than $1 billion business, if that's what it got to, because I'm going to use American beef.
Right.
And the guy's like, okay, well, we'll see how it goes then. And I'm like, we will. Like, and there is some of that to where it, our beef sticks will be a little bit more expensive than the imported stuff, but yet, where it came from, it was raised here. There's just a lot that goes into it. But,
Yeah.
and kind of the last story, like real quick along this line, that really kind of changed everything for us. And I think why I'm so stubborn on this one thing about it being American beef is that, that right before my dad passed away, and I don't think we really got too much into this last time, because it was so long ago, but, we're actually coming up on the 8-year anniversary of when my dad passed away here in like 2 weeks. And we were shipping calves, which, for those of you who don't know, in the fall, what you do is you basically sell all of the calves that you had that year, all the babies, and that's how you make your money on a ranch. Like, most people are operating that way. And that happened to be kind of a rough year. And I was helping my dad, and him and his my stepmom. They're far enough away from me to where they thought that I couldn't hear them, but I could. And I saw my stepmom walk over there, because what happens is they bring the big cattle trucks, and then they hand you a check. And they're like, okay, we weighed them all up. Here's your check for $80,000, $100,000, whatever that number is. And that's basically the only time you make money all year, is when you sell all your calves. And so you might think, oh, $100,000, that's awesome. But now you have to pay back all the loans you've been living on for the whole year, your operating loans, your cattle loans, all that. And I remember my stepmom walking over there and being like, my dad's name was Dave, what are we going to do, Dave? What are we going to do? And at that point, I was working for a software company, sitting on my ass all day long, selling people stuff on the phone, great job,
Mm-hmm.
making tons of money, right? And my dad had been out there in the weather, in the storms, doing this just back-breaking work at 64 years old.
Yeah.
And I just heard him say, "I don't know. I don't know. We'll figure it out, but I don't know." Because basically what happened, and he would never tell me this stuff because he never wanted to put it on me, right? In fact, he was the one that was like, "Go do something else. Like you don't want to live like this. You'll never have money. Even if you did want to come back, we can't pay you. You have a family, so you could come back and help if you want, but like we can't pay you."
Yeah.
And so I remember like my dad sitting there just being like so dejected. But he wouldn't say anything because he's old school, right? Like old school
Mm-hmm.
guys, they're not going to tell you. Like your dad's, I'm sure, the same way, right? He's awesome. But it's like, they don't want to tell you, like,
Yeah.
oh, we're struggling, we're going to go under. He was just like, I don't know. We'll figure it out, I guess.
Yeah.
And like, I remember sitting there being like, I wish I could just go give my dad money, but he wouldn't take it. No way he was going to take money from me. And so fast forward when we actually moved back to the ranch and we took over and bought my stepmom out and that whole crazy story.
Mm-hmm.
I remember thinking like, okay, a way to honor my dad is going to be to make this ranch actually make money. And not
Mm-hmm.
the way that he was doing it, because it's almost impossible doing the traditional cow calf operation. And that's when we started Crosso Meats and started, shipping meat out across the country. And then when it came full circle to launching these beef sticks, so like there's literally like pictures of me on the floorboard of my dad's pickup at like 2 years old, back in the days when you didn't have car seats and seat belts and all that, but like sitting down there munching on a beef stick at like 2 years old, barely any teeth, right? Like there's a
Heck yeah.
pictures of me doing that. And so it was like a full circle, almost like emotional tie to like beef sticks. My dad always had some type of beef stick. He was always munching on something like that. And probably the grittiest person I've ever met in my entire life. And I'm like, you know what? This is what I think he would be proud of this. Like, I think that this is an
Mm.
awesome way to honor him and to honor all of the people out there doing like what he did in his life. And so it's just been, man, it's been awesome. Like feel like I'm getting emotional even talking about it now. It's been 8 years since he passed away and it still sucks. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of finally come full circle, man. And I'm
Heck
stoked to be
yeah.
able to kind of honor him a little bit with these two.
Heck yeah, man. I mean, what a powerful story and the journey of Crosso and I mean, I don't think people really realize how hard a work it is. It's
Yeah.
just like, Yellowstone glorifies the shit out of it. But
Yeah.
man, oh man, I know, my dad's girlfriend has a huge operation here in Montana, and going out there, they work from sun up to sundown, and it is hard work.
Yeah.
And we, leased our ranch in Red Lodge, Montana, just for cattle, and it's like, man, is it a lot of work? And blue collar folk and hardworking Americans, they really don't get the glory, the credit. You're right. The people trade numbers on the screens, or you know, inventing some app that or video game. It's crazy what we as I don't know as a country like uh, glorify. But nonetheless, I just want to say, man, it's an important and powerful journey, and kudos to you and your family for sticking it out. And really, again, you're happy hustling the old way of life in modern times so that you can make it work, and honoring your dad in that process. I do want to make this as relevant as possible for the happy hustlers and really start to extract some true business lessons from it, because like you've learned a ton about creating a consumable product, and specifically having a consumable product that has the reoccurring component. That's like a gold mine. That's where you see these drink mixes crushing, like LMNT, a Montana company actually. This salt in a packet, but it's
Have a whole
reoccurring.
bunch of it myself.
They're great, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, you see athletic greens crushing, a lot of the supplement companies. This is a reoccurring consumable, and this category of product, when you hit it right, you crush, and it's a big win.
Yeah.
So just talk to us about maybe some of the biggest mistakes that you've made in this consumable, you know, industry, that maybe you would, advise a happy hustler out there who wants to get into, selling a product like this online. Like, a consumable, maybe you could give them some insight so they can avoid
How long do we have here if we're going to go through
it.
mistakes? Because
Yeah.
I feel like we've made them all.
Yeah.
Uh,
Give us the big
so
ones that you think people can really learn from, though.
yeah, I mean, we just made a huge one a couple days ago, which number one thing I think is just always to double check everything. We
Mm.
just launched these grit sticks a few days ago, and somehow the shipping prices from our frozen meat that we ship out, which is pretty astronomical, was getting charged on our grit sticks, which are not, they don't need to be refrigerated. So people were
Mm.
putting in like a $40 order of grit sticks and it was tabulating like an $80 shipping charge or some craziness. So there's just one like that happened like
Yep.
4 days ago. So hitting that. But real quick on the consumable thing, because I want to tell somebody, I think the best thing that I've ever heard when it comes to business, and it was at Funnel Hacking Live, and it was Tom Bilyeu. So, and this is what actually got us to launch the business, and then I can tell you all kinds of mistakes. But so Tom Bilyeu, for those of you who don't know, he started Quest, and he was at Funnel Hacking Live. It was the first year after I walked away from ClickFunnels. I still went to Funnel Hacking
I
Live.
was there. Yeah.
Yeah, you were there. Yep. And I heard him say, everybody wants to create a billion, and I'm paraphrasing, but it was basically along the lines of, if you want to create $1 billion business, it's very simple. Just create something that as soon as somebody consumes it, they need more of it. And I don't know why, but it's like the stupidest, simplest advice ever, right?
Yeah.
But it just like hit me like a ton of bricks because, it's like everybody's out there trying to like sell ebooks and, in the ClickFunnels world, especially. It's like, or coaching or all of these things, which all of those things are great. But like, that's not something that as soon as you consume it, you necessarily would need more. Now, maybe there's a value ladder and all of those things, but you're always kind of like trying to sell them something better and something higher up the value ladder and like all of those things, which that can be hard to do.
Right.
But if you have a product like Element, right, or some of these to where as soon as I dump that little powder, I'm going to need more of that the next time in my drink. Like it's brilliant and it's simple and it's stupid simple, right?
Yeah.
And so I come back from Funnel Hacking Live and I was like, we've been wanting to figure out like this way of, like making money with our ranch outside of just the cow calf operation. And then it's like, well, Tom Bilyeu just said, if you can sell something that as soon as somebody consumes it, they'll need more of it, you could build $1 billion business. And I'm like, well, we have a lot of meat, and when you eat meat, you're going to need more meat. So why don't we try that out? So that was like literally how we did it. So that was seriously like some of the best advice. But in terms of mistakes, like gosh, Carrie, we've made so many. I don't even know what the big ones are because they all in the moment feel huge. Like every time you do it, it's like, that is the worst mistake. I mean, it's been everything from buying like the wrong size of boxes because we just didn't plan through.
Whoa. Apologies for interrupting your programming. But I have to tell you, the best investment you can make in yourself is one in which helps you acquire skills. You've probably heard people talk about, oh, just invest in yourself and you'll be successful. Yes, that's true to a degree, but you have to invest in skills that will ultimately help you achieve your desired results. And I think one of the best skills one can possess, be it an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, is the sales sword. Really knowing how to sell, utilizing pressure-free persuasion, which will make you more money and more impact. Now, if you want to know how to sell more efficiently and effectively, I just launched a sales course called The Proven Roadmap Process to Selling Millions of Dollars and helping you to increase your conversions, guaranteed. And you can get access to this new sales course that the Happy Hustle is launching at thehappyhustle.com/sales. And if you act fast, you'll get it at the lowest price it'll ever be available because we are launching it and we want to gain amazing testimonials and social proof to further share this knowledge. So if you act fast, you can get it at the lowest price it'll ever be. That's at thehappyhustle.com/sales. Now let's get back to this episode.
Probably honestly one of the biggest mistakes, and we're almost 5 years into this business and we just got this dialed in like a couple months ago, is getting super, super clear on your numbers. Because I will tell you, my personality flaw is that I don't spend enough attention to detail sometimes. My wife is great at that, but I'm not. I'm like big vision. Here we go. We're going to, we were talking before. I was telling you, even with the grit sticks, like another mistake, because most people will be like, hey, why don't we test the market, see if the market likes this? I'm like, hey, let's start with 14,000 beef sticks and see if they sell. It's like, well, and like my wife will be like, well, what if they don't? And it's like, oh, we'll sell them. And she's like, yeah, but like, what if they don't? And to me, I am like, so I don't even know, probably like brain dead to the sense, like that's not even an option for me, right? I'm not even thinking like, what if they don't sell? I'm like, no, we'll sell them. And she's like, yeah, but how? And I'm like, oh, we'll do it. And then I end up dragging her along, and she's like the process oriented, paying attention to everything, and she's just like pulling her hair out. And I'm like, no, we're just gonna go really fast, And so that's usually my mistakes. But we just recently like got dialed in on our numbers, like really dialed in to what our top lines are, our actual net profit is, because there were so many times where it's like, oh, it feels like we're bringing in pretty good money, but like there's none left. Where's it going, and what's happening with this? And so, sorry, that's like a super long answer, but like probably the biggest mistake though, realistically, is not being super clear on our numbers, because everything I feel like trickles down from that. If you're not super clear on your numbers, then it's like, we don't know if this is actually making us money or that is. And if that isn't, should we pivot? And so we were just kind of like finger in the air for the first few years. And I feel like we finally are like, okay, now we understand where we can grow, maybe where we need to cut back on.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned some really good points. The numbers one, I definitely would agree, is where, I mean, even I still go through this where I'm like, okay, what is our actual hard cost? Like the act, because sometimes as an entrepreneur, especially when you're in the business, you don't value your time. But if you have to pay someone to do that work, or you want to pay someone to do that work to get yourself out of the business, then you need to value it. And it's if it's not incorporated in the hard cost, then you're not getting an accurate depiction of your actual profit margin. And so knowing your numbers is key. I mean, and especially too with marketing, if you know your customer acquisition cost, right? And what you actually make, on a customer and the lifetime value, it's like game of math. It really is. You just like, you spend more money and you make more money, so it's just important. I love that you mentioned that. Let's talk about the actual marketing piece, because, this is, now you got all these beef sticks, right? And it's, again, as a consumable, like it's all about the marketing. Let's be honest. You really got to build a brand around it. What are some of the things that you're doing for marketing that you would, recommend, the verticals per se to sell a consumable, and then maybe some of the things that you've considered but have decided not to pursue?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that I learned from ClickFunnels is that, excuse me, is that people buy stories, right? People buy outcomes, they buy stories. They don't typically buy improvements. And even when it came down to like, what types of claims do we want to make on our beef steak? What type of marketing angles do we want to make? And this is kind of giving you like way behind, the curtain for us. But excuse me, we knew that there's no way that we can compete with foreign raised, shipped in beef. We knew that, like in terms of pricing, we knew that. And I'll never forget, like I got a call from a guy early on that asked us how much our ground beef is per pound. And I told him, he's like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. I would never buy that. And I think a lot of times people have then they let that doubt creep in and they're like, oh my gosh, I should change my pricing. I should do this or I should do that. And it was like, no, I know that there's enough people out there that want the story. They want the purity, the cleanliness, all of that. So if we focus on being cheap, we'll go out of business. We'll price ourselves out of business. And so that just isn't even really an option for us. So the whole story that we built out and the way that we marketed that is, hey, you will know where your food comes from. And so we've always been big advocates of knowing where your food comes from. Big advocates of kind of bringing people and allowing them to be part of our ranch. Like we like one of the things that we've done to kind of create some brand loyalty is like we had a few of these NFL guys that stopped by the ranch, mutual friends, super cool. Yeah. But we're like, okay, what is it that we could give these guys that would really make them like feel like they're part of this? Well, we have all these corrals here, and a bunch of them are falling down. The wood's like, I don't even know, 100 years old probably. And so what we did is we chopped up some of, and this might sound stupid, right? And I get it because it kind of does as I say it out loud. But we chopped up chunks of our old corral, this old wood. It's all weathered and looks rough. And then we branded it with our Cross O brand. So like every calf that we have gets branded with a cross and an O. That's our brand. That's basically a cow's identification card, right?
Mm.
And so we branded it. We actually, well, we had these guys brand it. So they got to brand this wood that came from our ranch and that's been here forever. And those guys left here just thinking this was the coolest thing ever. And if we would have just been like, here, take a couple of steaks, they'd have been like, cool, it's more meat. But it was like, no, we want them immersed into our culture, into our story. And those guys have, really seemed to like us ever since, right?
Yeah.
And it's been the same thing with our grit sticks. Is it's like, okay, you could walk up any grocery store and you'll see 100 different types of beef sticks, grass fed, grass finished, no hormones, blah, 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 all the stuff. And it's like we're entering in what we know is a pretty red ocean. There's a lot of these. But one thing I don't see anybody doing in the beef stick world is actually like calling out to the people who are likely to buy beef sticks, which a lot of times are very much your blue collar, hardworking, people. And so it's like we know that number one, we feel like our beef sticks are better, but that's very subjective from one person to the next. But what we do know is that Jack's Links or Fatties or Chomps or any of these, they're not speaking to kind of your entrepreneur who's grinding, right? Who's happy hustling, but more hustling maybe than happy some days, right?
Yeah.
Like those people who do have to have the grit while they're building their business, while they're doing that. And so that's really like, and we've just launched the grit sticks. And so, we launched our first video that really kind of calls to that. So really all of our marketing efforts, like you'll never hear us talk about, oh, we have the best beef you'll ever try, even though we feel like we do, because again, that's subjective. But what's not subjective is the fact that people can kind of take this ride, this journey with us. They can come visit our ranch. They can come see how we do this. Like all of those things is really how we've built our brand loyalty. And, our subscription is a massive part of our business. We wouldn't have a business probably if we didn't have our subscription service. And like the amount of people that we've had since day one, like our retention rate is insane with it. And I think it's because people are stoked. And one other thing I will tell you from the marketing standpoint that we do, and anybody who has a subscription, I seriously think you should do something similar. And this is, again, coming from ClickFunnels, is if someone signs up for our subscription, they get a free shirt. It's actually the shirt I'm wearing right now. It says Fueled by Crosso Meats. You can't buy this shirt. It's not in our swag store, any of that. The only way you get it is if you're a subscriber. Now, people are like, oh, what a great deal, right? Like I subscribe and I get a t-shirt. But we tested this at ClickFunnels. And maybe it's not a t-shirt for whatever your business is out there, but typically people, they look at this, this exchange of value and they think, oh, I bought something and I got it, but I also got something additional. And so now people are very, very much less likely to cancel. And like we test that ClickFunnels, and I can't even tell you the metrics now, but by sending people a free shirt when they would first start, it would lengthen their retention for like months.
Wow.
Not just like a month, but literally like multiple months. And that was with the software company. And so we've done the same thing with us, is like when you sign up, we probably are going to lose money on you by sending you the shirt. That shows you how big our margins are, right? But we know that when you get the shirt, you're going to love the meat. You're going to wear the shirt. You're going to be bought in even further into our culture. And chances are you probably won't cancel. And so if you have a subscription, any type of something that's month after month after month, when someone comes on board, my opinion is that they are your number one priority, right? Not getting a new sale anymore. Those people there, because it's so much easier to keep a customer if you do it right than it is to acquire a new one. And it's cheaper because you've already had to pay for the customer acquisition at that point. So anything you can do to keep them as a customer is so much, in my opinion, more important than finding a new one, because you might find another new one and then you have to find another new one because there's no brand loyalty. But those little things, again, a free t-shirt costs us what, $15? Cool. It's fine. It's worth it because these people stay on for so long. And then it allows them to be even more indoctrinated into what we're hoping to accomplish, which is getting them the best beef ever.
Yeah. Some gold there, some marketing gold for sure. I mean, I think about, even just these silly Happy Hustle hats too,
Yep.
like we don't sell them. You get them from being a part of the culture, right? And like being bought in on the mission. And I've had a lot of people ask, why don't you sell merch? And it's like, well, it's not really our thing, the merch game. It's building the movement more
Mhm.
so. And yeah, the merch supports the movement, but it's a big piece to the marketing puzzle and to getting people bought in. So I really appreciate that kind of peek behind the curtain too. And yeah, I mean, I'm stoked for you guys because again, I know what's went into it, and I know like how good they are. I've had them. They're freaking phenomenal. They truly are. Like the jalapeno cheddar one, blew my mind. You brought them on one of the Montana masterminds too, and that was like, this has got to be one of the best pieces of meat in general that I've ever had. So it really is. You taste the love that goes into it and the story. And again, for anyone out there who wants some, where can people go? I feel like now people want to get some of
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
meat
If you
sticks.
guys want to check out the new grit sticks, you can just go to grit stick. It's singular gritstick.com, gritstick.com. And since you're an awesome guy and allowed me to come on here and talk about this, if you guys use the code happy when you check out, you'll save
Ooh,
20%. So
let's
you're going to save
go.
some money.
There we go. All
Yes.
right. So use code happy, gritstick.com. That's a good domain too.
Yeah.
Good,
Yeah.
good
Not
thing you
bad,
guys
right?
got that one. But yeah, use code happy to save. We're talking jalapeno, original, or teriyaki, 13 grams of protein, 100% American beef, no nitrates, no crap like that. And yeah, no real middleman. It's not, this whole processing plant that's just reselling stuff. It's from Crosso Meats, hormone free, and yeah, maybe they can even visit the ranch one day, right? I feel like you got to do some events out there soon. I know we talked about them, but
We have to.
yeah,
We've done kind of a couple little impromptu ones, and they're always fun. Like, when you have a couple of these elite athletes out there chasing our steers around in a pen, terrified, like that is
yeah,
hilarious.
yeah.
So yeah, we kind of do like some crossover cowboy games every so often, and that's been a lot of fun too.
I love it. That's Crosso Cowboy Games. That's a good one.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I do want to put you through some of our traditional happy hustle questions just because, why not? And then we'll do a quick rapid fire round. So basically, a happy hustle hack for your health. I do like to ask something uniquely Derek, maybe something, a little cowboy that we can share with the people that you're doing to, keep yourself, optimized.
Yeah. So one thing I am doing is geez, I'm trying to think. There's a few things. Um Trying to think of maybe what would be the most helpful, because
I feel like this.
I went to like an animal based diet here a few years ago, and that has changed everything.
Mm,
Um, a lot smaller than what I used to be, so that's one. But I
yep.
mean, honestly, like the thing that I think is almost as helpful as anything is just like getting outside into nature.
Oh, yeah.
Like I don't know if you can read it on a screen or if you could test it, but just like the clarity and
Oh, yeah.
you know how it is, man. Like if you're out there elk hunting in the middle of nowhere, walking
Oh, yeah.
around, there's nothing that will just get all the junk out of your brain. Like just being out in nature and it's quiet. I mean, like with the camping trips, even,
Oh, yeah.
right? Like it's insane how recharged, and it's almost like, hey, we're actually meant to be outdoors in nature. That's how we're built.
Right. Right.
But when you live in a concrete jungle and you don't do that, I think you lose sight of it. You lose sight of looking at the stars and breathing fresh air and just all that stuff that makes me sound like a hippie. I feel like it really is. That's the good stuff. So I
Yeah.
always try to do that. I always try to make sure I'm spending time outside, even when we are hustling. Like you got to get outside. You got to breathe fresh air. You got to see some blue sky if you got it, or feel the rain if that's what it is. But whatever, you got to be outside.
Yeah. No, it's a great hack for your health and just for your mental health too.
Yeah.
It's something actually that is quantified. There, we had a guy on the podcast. Nature Quant is this website. Very interesting. They actually give your home environment, if you plug in your address, a nature score based on a whole bunch of different variables and factors. I'm sure yours would be phenomenal. You probably have the highest score available, but it's interesting. And then they talked about all the science and data on why people who go outside more are happier. So
Wow.
there you have it.
So they
Might be
can
harder work.
quantify it.
Yeah, you can. Yeah,
That's
you should
awesome.
check it out. All right, let's talk about money because I do think this is a great thing for everyone to learn, especially from someone who's sold as much as you have and really been on the back end of such a big business with Russell. I know a close friend of yours, and it's like you got to learn from one of the greatest marketers around. So making money is a topic I always like to touch on, specifically a happy hustle hack when it comes to it. Anything specific you want to share? Maybe something uniquely Derek that you use, or a sales tactic or process. I mean, I've learned a ton from you in that department. So anything you can share there?
I think such an important part of making money is you have to get good at sales. You have to get good at sales, and you have to be somewhat good at self promotion, which I still feel like I struggle with, honestly.
Yeah.
But you have to get good at sales, because you can have the best product. Like, we used to always talk about it back in the day, but it's like you could have the cure for cancer in a bottle, but if no one knows you have it, then does it do anybody any good? And so many people hear the word sales and they're like, ooh, gross, used car salesman screwing over grandma, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, yeah, there is that. But there's also the salesman that is out there, selling gym memberships that allow people to lose 300 pounds, right? There's also people out there selling, super great food that allow people to get off medications, right? Like, for every one of those used car salesmen, when the word sales pops into your head, there's a whole bunch of other people selling stuff that's actually great.
Right.
And if you believe in your product and you believe in your service and what you're doing, and you're not getting good at sales, I feel like you're doing the world a disservice,
Right.
because more people aren't learning about what you can do to help them.
Mm.
And like, when it comes to making money, like, everybody knows it's said all the time, but it's an exchange of value.
Yeah.
But the reality is that if you can't build value with what you're doing, people won't see value in it and they won't give you money. And
Mm.
so that's really what it comes down to, is that you have to be able to build value. You have to be able to explain what it is that you do, and you have to be able to sell it. And if you do those things, I think you'll be all right. But if you don't, if you're like, oh, I don't want to be pushy, like, don't be pushy. Don't be pushy. No one likes pushy.
No.
But be confident in what you're doing. Like, if you have something you truly believe in, you should want to tell the world about it.
Right. Love that. Some gold right there again. Some sales secrets from the sales swordman slayer Derek himself. You like that? Just made it up. Anyway, that's a great tip. Let's talk about spirituality, something that you do to connect to a higher power. Because I do think, again, you got to have faith in something bigger than yourself, especially as a happy hustler and as an entrepreneur going on the journey. Like, you got to believe in something bigger than yourself, or else oftentimes you're unfulfilled, and it's even more of a difficult journey. What's a happy hustle hack for you and maybe your family to connect to a higher power? Anything come to mind?
Well, I'm definitely, a Christian. So that's kind of where my spirituality goes. One thing I absolutely love to do is I have an infrared sauna, and I love to take usually at least like 10 minutes while I'm in there. Like, a lot of times the first 10 minutes just to clear my head, and I'll listen to some type of like spiritual or worship music, and just kind of like meditate or prayer on that. And if you want to think about things, talking about getting outside, but that's right up there.
Yeah.
When you can sit in the sauna, have the sweat rolling, and then also have some type of spiritual music that can help you connect to that higher power,
Mm.
that's, I feel like, something that is so helpful to me. And, sometimes you get busy, you get away from it, but it really is, it's like a little sanctuary in the sauna for me from a spiritual standpoint. And then outside of that, we always try to, on Sundays, we live very rural. And the couple churches that we do have, we just don't necessarily connect with, I would say. And so we've actually, just as a family, been watching an online church and kind of going through that, because I'm in total agreement with you that there has to be that spiritual connection. But man, the sauna and some spiritual music, ain't a lot that gets it better than that for me.
I agree with you, dude. I agree. Those some great tips there, man. And yeah, I've been digging this artist Forrest Frank. Have you heard this guy? It's not like it goes hard. It's more like rap. But next time you want to work out to some
Yeah.
good like upbeat godly music,
Hmm.
check that guy out. He's good.
Yeah, for
Shout out to
sure.
him.
For sure.
All right, man. Well, this is awesome. I do want to put you through the rapid fire round real quick, and then we'll wrap this up. So just Answer honestly. First
All
thing
right.
that comes to mind. Are you ready?
Getting ready. Here we go.
Okay. Favorite movie? Go.
Braveheart.
Favorite book?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Probably would have to say, I'd have to say subtle art of not giving a, you know what,
Yeah.
got to
Okay.
be right
Good
up
looking.
there.
Favorite food?
Ribeye, man.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say grit stick. No.
Grit stick. Yes. Yes.
What's your spirit animal?
Bald eagle.
Oh, heck yeah, you
I
got to
will
be
pounce on your ass, Carrie. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, they're legit, dude. I just saw a big one out here.
Uh,
Best business advice.
oh man. Make sure that whatever you do has a bigger, I would say make sure that whatever business you pursue has a bigger calling than money.
Mm. 3 things you're most grateful for today.
My family is number one, where we live. And I would say number 3 is just being healthy. We've had, just quick backstory, but in our little community, we've had 2 separate tragedies in like the last 2 weeks, where 2 different girls that my daughter plays on her basketball team with lost a dad, and the other one a grandpa who raised his granddaughter. 2 separate accidents that happened, and just, I mean, I've been just so grateful just for the health of my family. Like that's, yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you don't want to take a day for granted just because you
No,
never know.
no.
And then if you had a billboard for the world to see with your last piece of content on there, Derek, what does that billboard read?
I would have to say grit after it.
That's good. I love it. You crushed that rapid fire round, brother. I just want to take a moment, man, for just sharing your love, your light, your wisdom, and acknowledge you just for everything you've blessed my life with greatly, and just your support, your collaboration, your wisdom. We've broed out plenty of times in the woods, not enough, but plenty. We got plenty more to come.
If you would ever just come on our famous cattle drive, if
I
you would
know.
ever just do it.
I know. I need to. I need to for sure. I always
Maybe if I
forget.
call you out in front of all of these people,
I
you'll
know.
have some accountability for next
That's
year.
true. I need to plan the Montana Masterminds around it. Honestly, that's what
Yes.
happens every year. It's 4th of July, then it's Mastermind time. Anyway, nonetheless, I'm just grateful for you, bro. So thank you so much for being on.
Likewise, man. I love you. I appreciate you.
Love you too, man. Let's tie a bow on everything we talked about. Give the people some type of actionable takeaway that you want to leave people with. Maybe it's related to business, maybe it's related to grit, maybe it's a call to action to, do something. What would you tie a bow on our conversation with?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I would say business wise is figure out how whatever it is that you're selling to where as soon as somebody consumes it, they need more of it.
Mm.
And I think that is something that can be almost used universally, whether it's a physical product, a digital product, SaaS, whatever it is. I think there's always a component for a subscription, because if you don't have some type of predictable revenue in your business, I don't know how you sleep at night. So like that would be the biggest thing. And then outside of that is, I would tell you more from a personal standpoint, is just, if you just understand that things are going to be very difficult, when you get into the middle of the difficulties, you're never caught off guard. Because I know for me personally, or at least I feel like, with ClickFunnels, it was almost so easy from where I was sitting to where it's like, oh, this is how business is. It just goes from like $0 to $100 million in 3 years. And that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then like you start your own business and you're like, we're terrible at this, obviously, because we haven't done this. But, there's a few people I've talked to and I've been able to listen to and meet. And, they kind of shine a light on just how hard this stuff is. Not hard in the sense of like killing yourself, but just it's difficult building a business.
Yeah.
Like there's
Oh, yeah.
challenges every single day. And if you don't know that those are going to come, I feel like they can wreck you and they can wreck your happiness.
Yeah.
So it's like, just know this stuff is going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it. So that way, when you're in the middle of the hard, you're like, yeah, of course it's hard. I knew it was going to be hard. Who cares? Like, let's just keep going. So just know it's going to be hard, but that's okay. No reason to stop.
And grit after it. I love it.
Yes.
Heck yeah, man. That was awesome. All right. Final question. As always, I'm curious if your answers changed at all. What does happy hustling mean to you?
Man, happy hustling to me means working your ass off with a big fat smile on your face.
I love it. That might be one of my favorite answers. Heck yeah. Derek Wilson, y'all. Thank you for watching and listening. Get some grit sticks and grit after it. I appreciate the heck out of y'all for listening. That's it. Peace and love, everybody.